I'm joined now by William Wechsler, Senior Director of the Rafi Hariri Center and Middle East Programs at the Atlantic Council. It's good to have you. And let me just correct myself. It was Arab and Muslim leaders that the US president met last week and proposed this 21-point plan to. First, Benjamin Netanyahu facing heat from his far-right coalition. We haven't had any response to Hamas. We know that Donald Trump wants a win out of this. How much leverage do you believe he has at this point over the Israeli Prime Minister?
Trump has tremendous leverage over Netanyahu. And it looks like today, in about 30 minutes, he is going to really use it and hopefully bring this war to an end. There is really no way that that any Israeli prime minister can operate without the support of the United States. And President Trump has signaled in a variety of ways that his patience has been wearing thin as of late.
Gulf and wider Middle East states would play a crucial role in getting this deal across the line and helping guarantee Gaza's security. So I just wonder, and you're very well sourced, just how much buy-in does Donald Trump have to this 21-point plan, and what role for the region, William?
I think Donald Trump has a lot of buy-in from the wider Arab world and especially from the Gulf. Remember, Donald Trump's first trip anywhere that he organized as president this term was to the region, where he went to Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar, and he did not visit Israel. He has very strong relationships there. It was just last Friday that the president of the UAE, Mohammed bin Zayed, met with Benjamin Netanyahu for a preview of the message that that he's going to receive when he visits today to the White House. So I see a lot of connections between the Trump White House and the Gulf.
Those who, I want to say Trump watchers. I certainly don't want to say Trump's critics. Those who sort of, are very observant of Donald Trump often say that he tends to be influenced by the last person who has his ear. So while that was Arab and other Muslim leaders last week, I just wonder, given the pushback by the far-right members of Netanyahu's coalition when it comes to involvement of the PA going forward, talk of at least aspirations towards a Palestinian state going forward, I wonder how much, and let's call it wiggle room, you believe Benjamin Netanyahu may have at this point.
From what we've seen, the 21-point plan that the Trump administration has put forward is something that, on the substance, Israel should leap at. It is, it's a demonstration of frankly, the level of success that they've had over the last 2 years. I think as long as Donald Trump stays committed to the plan as we understand it, that that Benjamin Netanyahu will go along with it. There is always the chance, as the people on Wall Street say, who watch Donald Trump, that there might be another taco incidents of Trump always chickens out. But I really hope it's not the case.
We've seen some red lines being expressed very specifically by Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, two right-wing members, very right-wing members of Benjamin Netanyahu's coalition. One of those red lines for Netanyahu was that any peace deal should establish no involvement of Qatar in Gaza. Qatar, of course, playing a key role an integral role in mediating up until the recent attack on Doha. Reports actually suggest Netanyahu is closer to making amends with Doha than alienating it. How do you read this position, this stance, at least by members of his right-wing coalition vis-a-vis Qatar right now?
The Kahanists that are allowed to be part of this Israeli government are flailing right now. They don't want a peace deal. They don't want Qatar. They've more recently said that, well, if we're going to have a peace deal, then we need to annex the West Bank, something that Donald Trump has explicitly thrown off the table. Um, the At the end of the day, Prime Minister Netanyahu has a decision to make. The decision is between the national security interests of Israel and his political coalition, potentially. He needs to call the bluff of these Kahanist parties and see if they will take down the government.
Yeah, question is he ready to do that? And that, at this point, with less than an hour to go, remains to be seen. We know this meeting is scheduled to start just after the top of this next hour, and we are expecting a press conference on the back of that. Stick with CNN for that. William, it's a pleasure having you on. Thank you very much indeed.